Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another weekly edition of the show, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Should be a fun one. A lot to get to on today's show. I mean, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones had a fight that was, let's be honest, Gary, the event of the year, right? I had so much fun, Gary. I know you didn't really watch the whole thing, but I enjoyed every second of that shit show. I'm probably going to sound like the biggest hypocrite on today's show, especially with my rantings about the Paul brothers previously, but I really enjoyed Saturday's circus. I'll be honest. It was entertaining. Plus, we had legit fights, I guess, like Daniel Jacobs and Gabe Rosado, which we have to talk about. Dan Dubois, our boy, me and Gary's boy, completely shitting the bed. God damn it. So upsetting. I hate when I'm wrong. I don't care if Gary's wrong, but when I'm wrong, God, I hate it. It's the worst. It's the worst. Plus, a lot of topics today, honestly. Tyson Fury, opponent seemingly falling out for unknown reasons. Oscar De La Hoya has 4 topics in the news on today's show because he's saying anything and everything to anyone that will listen. So, him calling out Triple G, him saying that he wants Virgil Ortiz to fight both Daniel Alusinov and Terrence Crawford. I don't know which one first. A lot to get to for today's show, guys. So without further ado, let me get to my co-host, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I am good. And well. It's big fight week. We got the big fight coming up this weekend. I was not at all. I ended up watching the Roy Jones Mike Tyson fight. It does nothing for me. It was, I thought, embarrassing and painful to watch. It's almost as bad as watching Tom Brady play for the Buccaneers. It's guys, you're way past your prime. There's no need to do this. I didn't watch the Jake Paul thing. I have no interest in that. I watched my boy Eddie Vasquez in the opening fight. That was a sensational fight where he beat Irving Gonzalez. It wasn't that I was just wrong about Dubois. It was basically I called you stupid if you thought Joe Joyce was going to win, right? I was that confident, and I thought Joe Joyce winning was that absurd. And now I have to come back, and I have to man up.
Yeah, you do. And Gary, quickly, can you just refresh your page? You're cutting in now a little bit. That would fix it. I was having the same issue earlier. Obviously, you said, you were profusely pro Dubois to the point of being so anti Joe Joyce that Gary said the most outlandish and greatest shit about Joe Joyce that obviously did not come to fruition, not come to reality. Joe Joyce was surprisingly nimble in there. I mean, there's a lot to get into with that fight. I don't know if that's where Gary wants to start off with because there's a lot to get to on today's show. Scott Brown in the chat saying, Matt, no Joe Joyce. I'm assuming he means in the title of the show. Did he lose all your money on Daniel Dubois? I'll be honest. I made the show and the title rip really fast. I just spaced on it. At the time I was looking at a Daniel Jacobs article. That's why I put him in there. That's honestly that's the only reason why Jacobs is in the headline and not Dubois Joyce, who probably should be in the headline. I might go back and change that after the fact. Thank you, Scott. God, where did Gary go? He just did not decide to come back. So unprofessional, guys. I know. I'm the only one holding it down here all the time. Foos left General Strike podcast because he's so lazy. Gary's back, though. Gary?
My internet got unplugged. That's why I was breaking up.
Here we go. Gary, I don't know where you want to start. I don't know if you want to start with Mike Tyson or Roy Jones because that seemingly was the biggest event of the weekend. Let's just be honest about it. Or do you want to start with Dubois Joyce, which is...
If you want to start with the Roy Jones thing, I'd rather just get it off my plate because I know y'all might be interested in it. It really does nothing for me. I wasn't going to watch it, but everyone was tweeting about it. Did we get... we haven't gotten the pay-per-view numbers yet, but I think it's going to do 1 million. I really do. There were so many people watching. I don't know how many boxing fans bought it. But we know if there's 2 million people willing to spend money on a boxing pay-per-view, right? All of those casuals bought it. It seems like. I don't know how many got a crack stream like I did not do. I did not do that.
No.
I did not do that.
That's illegal.
And who actually paid for it? Because that seems like when Paulie Malignaggi fought in the bare knuckle boxing thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay for that, right? That was like $50 also, but I wanted to watch it. I had some intrigue in that. Like I wanted to see it. I'm not gonna pay $50, but I'll not stream it. I'll definitely not do that.
How much was this pay-per-view? Do you remember?
It was only 50.
Oh, it was only 50, Gary. It was only 50.
My concern is that, like, are people gonna buy that garbage and not the $70, $80 one this weekend? Like, guys, this is a great fight we have this weekend. And like, whatever, man. Like, I don't get it, right? Like, it's like the Ice Cube 3-on-3 basketball league. All right, like I'll watch it for 5 minutes. I'm not going to spend $50 and make an appointment television to watch Allen Iverson play. You know, like he can't play anymore. He's 100 years old. Like,
hey man, Mike Tyson could beat up Alexander Usyk right now. Bet in the house on that.
He couldn't beat Danny Williams 15 years ago, but now he can beat Usyk.
Yeah, because Usyk got touched up by Chaz Witherspoon.
Kevin McKnight, but he can beat Usyk 15 years later.
Was it McBride?
Kevin McKnight. Wait, I don't know. What's the guy's name? Kevin McBride?
It's Kenny McBride, isn't it?
That's how good the guy was. That's akin to losing to Peter McNeely. That's how good that guy was.
I'm pretty sure his last name's McBride because I always think of Danny McBride whenever I think of the name.
Yeah.
But it's not Danny McBride because that's the great comedian actor, of course. But digressing, I'll go on and sort of wax poetically about this event because I know Gary didn't really watch it and he hates on it because he's a boomer. I get it.
I feel like this was tailor-made for boomers. Like if you're a Mike Tyson is the GOAT or a Roy Jones Jr. is the GOAT, you're probably bordering on boomer age-wise, and this is your event.
But everything beside that was not boomerish. I will say that. You're right about that. Like Tyson, Roy Jones is definitely for like your uncle or like your grandpa or shit like that, depending on how old you are and you listen to the show, right? It's for like someone that's usually probably older than you, most likely, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter right now and you're on social media and platforms like that watching my show or Gary's show. You know, it's just that's how it should be. However, everything surrounding this was still like modern day pop culture. You know, it was a litany of modern day concert acts like, you know, YG, St. John, who else? French Montana, Sway Lee, there's some other people, Wiz Khalifa. Like that's all people like of my generation that is like musical acts doing like entire like musical sets. Like they was like doing 15-20 minute sets there in between fights. Snoop Dogg, I know even though he's more your generation, Gary, Snoop Dogg is still 100% my generation too. He is. Yeah,
it's like Jay-Z. Not that I like Jay-Z, but he crosses into another generation. He covers 2 generations for sure.
Absolutely. So like Snoop Dogg being a commentator for, I think, the top 2 fights, for the Jake Paul fight against Nate Robinson, who was also Gary's man's, who lost this weekend. So I want to point that out. And for obviously the main event, Mike Tyson or Roy Jones, Snoop Dogg was fantastic. Like, let's just be honest. I know you watched a little bit of the main event, right? Tell me that Snoop Dogg is not better than Todd Grisham and Sergio Mora right now combined.
Well, obviously he's better than Todd Grisham. I don't understand how Todd Grisham has a job. Like, we could talk about how bad Todd Grisham is, but like, yes, obviously he's better than Todd Grisham. That doesn't mean he's good. But yeah, Snoop was pretty good.
I think the undercard was like in terms of like the legitimate like prospects that fought on the undercard, or like, you know, Badu Jack. Like I like seeing Badu Jack fight always. Like he's a really fun guy. I've interviewed him tons of times. I've always been around him when it comes to like being at the Mayweather gym in Las Vegas. He's always there. He's usually the one guy we're always going to get interviews for or from. So I always like seeing Badu Jack fight. So I really enjoyed actually watching the undercard. It was entertaining. The fights were just fun scraps. It seemed like watching a small club show, to be honest, with high level production value. And I liked, you know, Israel Adesanya as the commentator. I thought he was rather entertaining. I love Mauro Ranallo. Like I can listen to Mauro Ranallo talk about anything in the combat sports entertainment world. I think he's just entertaining.
He has to speak Italian, by the way.
He does or doesn't?
Doesn't. I was disappointed in that. I saw him when I went to the Jamal Charlo fight in Brooklyn.
Fake Italian.
And I saw him, right? Like, because the weigh-in was in this big ballroom, right? And I'm walking up there and I'm turning around and obviously, like, he's got hair almost as good as mine. Obviously, that's Mauro Ranallo, right? So I said, I don't even remember what I said to him in Italian. He just looked at me like, what? I was like,
oh, man.
You know, no. Oh, I was like, all
Well,
right.
Gary, I'm Portuguese and Spanish. I speak neither.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
that's how it is.
I get
Unfortunately, like generational assimilation when it comes to like immigrant families, like the general concept.
he's from Canada though, right? Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah, but is he Italian? I'm assuming, or Ronaldo. I'm assuming.
I would think so. Yeah, he is. And like, so the immigrant, I don't know if he's from Montreal. That's just where most of the Italians in Canada are. So I would just assume he's in Montreal. Like, that's more recent immigration. As like immigration to the United States became tougher and tougher.
Oh, so then they start immigrating.
Montreal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I don't know. I do not know his ancestry.com. But
I took one of those. It was interesting, by the way.
the Jake Paul like knockout thing, I mean, it was entertaining in terms of like world star knockouts. Like that's like the value it had to me. Like if I paid $50 for this event, there was no way I would say like I had a fun time watching this. But I didn't pay for it because why would I? And I took it for what it was, a circus event that I'm just here for entertainment and sideshow purposes. And that's kind of what I got. And honestly, the main event, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, I saw it going either way, to be honest. I thought it was either going to be they both tire out in the first round and they're old guys, out of shape, haven't been doing it for a while, especially Mike Tyson. And they're going to be tired by the second or third round. And it's going to be two old guys like barely getting through it. That really didn't happen. Or I saw that, Roy Jones, last time we saw him, was getting knocked out by what, borderline top 150 ranked people. You know what I mean?
Really, after 50, we kind of stop ranking them, right? Like if you're not in the top 50, you don't make our ranking, right? Like
you don't, no, you don't. And they were definitely outside that ranking, that peer review, right? And that was going on for a while. So I thought this is either going to be really bad in terms of like violent, like Tyson's going to knock out Roy Jones early and it's going to be brutal to watch. And it's just going to be one of those where we shouldn't have made this. Or it's going to be, again, two old guys fighting. And it was evident that it was two old guys fighting. What we got was still two old guys fighting, but they were competitive. They were of an athletic ability enough to where they didn't tire out really over the 8 rounds, which was surprising because it was 8 rounds. I didn't think it should have been 8 rounds, to be honest. And we didn't get Roy Jones getting obliterated in any grotesque fashion. So I think overall, it's a win-win situation in terms of what we got. It could have been so much worse, but what we got was two old guys having a relatively competitive fight. So I enjoyed it. Again, for being a sideshow circus event, it was fun. Snoop Dogg, singing and yelling the whole time was entertaining. I can listen to Snoop Dogg any day of the week. I'm from Long Beach. Like, he's royalty. That's just how it is. And again, I liked the undercard. It was sideshow, circus show, regional shit. So I enjoyed it. Gary, any other thoughts on this? What about the Legends League that Tyson's starting? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see like old guys like Sugar Ray Leonard and who Chavez Sr. get into it and all that? You want to see that?
I mean, it's like Ice Cube's 3-on-3 league. Like, not. I mean, all right, for 5 minutes. Like, this is not something I want to watch regularly. Like, especially not on a college football Saturday. What game was on at that time that I was watching that I stopped watching to watch that silliness? I don't remember what game I was. Was it the Notre Dame?
Sure, Gary. Yes, you know me. I follow
game,
you know me. I always follow college football. So yes, it was Notre Dame versus that other game or the other.
Notre Dame played UNC, but I don't know. Like, I was watching like a meaningful game, like a game with BCS implications, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna watch this stupid thing. But everyone kept tweeting about it. I really had no interest in it at all. I wanted to see Eddie Vasquez fight. I watched that. My boy got the win. Irving Gonzalez again folded underneath that Texas heat. Texas fighters are cut for different cloth, and that material is out of production. They don't make it anymore.
They don't make Texas people anymore.
That cloth that they cut Texans out of, they don't make it anymore.
No, they don't.
They don't make it anymore. You can't find it anywhere else.
Not even Texas.
We may have some left, but it's not for sale. We may have some left. We'll see.
Oklahoma, the same shit. Don't worry.
No, Oklahoma's got some bootleg version of Fall Apart.
I've seen Tiger King. It's all the same thing.
So, like, where that is, where he's buried, is only like an hour away, less than an hour away. Like, it's on the Texas side, right? Like, right over by where the casinos are in Oklahoma, but on the Texas side, like Lake Texoma. I want to find it. I want to find, how do we find a body? I want to find it.
Carrie, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Back to whatever we're talking about. No, it definitely was one of those things where, like, if no one was going to talk about it on the night, I probably was going to avoid it too. But everyone was talking about it, so I was like, guess I'll watch it. You know, it became everyone's watching. It's a pop cultural event more than a boxing event. Let's be honest, right? Like, there's people that I pay attention to in like TV or movies and like that industry that are paying attention to this event that I know for a fact never watch boxing.
That's what I'm saying. It's the people who ordered the Mayweather fight and nothing else. Or, you know what I'm saying? That kind of watch this fight. That's why I'm thinking, I'm not exaggerating when I think this thing's going to do 1 million pay-per-views. 1 million. If I come in and I'm ridiculous or wrong, then I'll live with it. But like, just from what I've seen, my Twitter accounts, people who don't watch any boxing at all, who only buy a Mayweather versus De La Hoya fight or a Mayweather versus Canelo fight, bought this fight. Now, again, I don't know how many of them actually bought it and how many of them didn't buy it, so to speak. Did you buy it or did you not buy it? Okay. Just what I'm saying, if you're marketing it towards the younger generation and you have YouTube kind of YouTubers on it, right? You might get a lot of people who don't buy it, we'll say. That's what who watched it, didn't buy it.
Absolutely. But then I think we have like enough casual people that they're not like wise to it to a degree, right? Like the celebrity factor, right? There's way too many celebrities paying attention to this. Like, they all bought this shit. They didn't legally download it because they're celebrities. They don't care about the money.
A former heavyweight champion who you had in your top 10 heavyweights of all time, who I had in my top 20, who may or may not have beaten Evander Holyfield twice, asked on Twitter for a stream. He said, somebody send me a link. So
really? That's so great. That's so great. Oh my God. That makes me laugh so much. I love that. Anyways, that's probably it for our takes on Tyson or Jones. Because I really don't want to see them fight again. Like, it was cool for what it was. I was entertained by it, but like, it's a novelty thing. Doing the novelty thing over and over again defeats the purpose of it being a novelty thing.
One more thing I want to add, right? And this is why I don't like it, right? I will always tell my kids, Roy Jones Jr. is the greatest fight I ever saw. Until that day changes, right? Like, until there's someone better than Roy Jones, which I can't foresee happening, but whatever, maybe it will. Roy Jones is the best I ever saw. Nobody beats a prime Roy Jones. Nobody. And then, like, you go back, and this is the version that you see of him. It's like, Dad, this guy like sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, why? It's like Kobe's last year. It's like, that's not after all the injuries, right? And I know.
Hey! No! He had the 60-point game at the end. He had the 60-point game at the end.
It's the same thing with Brady, right? Brady won 6 Super Bowls. Right, he's the Kobe Bryant of football. Watch him now; he's trash.
No. You didn't hear me then. I said you forget the 60-point game at the very end. His last game, Kobe went in there and bossed it up, man. He went Mamba mentality. No, you can't take that away from Kobe.
He scored 60. How many shots did he take to get to the 60?
It didn't matter, man. He made 60 points. Okay. He went up to Shaq, and Shaq was like, "You can do 40." Kobe was like, "Yeah, fuck you, man," and then dropped 60 on him. Shout out to Kobe.
Kobe. I say Mamba mentality. I use Kobe as a kind of like an iconic reference of going all out. Like,
Kobe's a tier above Brady.
I don't. That's gonna. I mean,
why? Hold on. Brady is getting close to Brett Favre status. Oh, I said it. I said it.
Why Brett Favre status?
If he jumps to like one more team before he retires, it's definitely Brett Favre status, right?
Just to be fair, Kobe was going to be drafted by the Nets. Calipari, who was the coach of the Nets at the time, called Kobe the day of the draft and said, "We're going to draft you. You're going to fall to us. We're going to draft you." Kobe Bryant said, "Okay," hung up, had his agent call Calipari, had his agent call Calipari and said, "Do not draft him. He is not going to play for you." He got drafted 2 picks later by the Hornets and demanded to be traded. And then he got traded for Divock, which is laughable, but at the time Divock was a good player, right? It wasn't laughable at the time. Divock was a good player. So it was like he wasn't going to play for a team like the Nets. You know what I'm saying? I'm Kobe Bryant. Like, I'm the future of the league. I'm not playing for and that was still the New Jersey Nets. That is before KD. It's before Jason Kidd. He wasn't going to play for the Nets. Right? He's like, you're going to trade me and to a good team. So, yes, Kobe played his whole career on one team, but he also told two teams that sucked, I'm not going to play for you.
It's not about the only playing on one team. That's not what I'm talking about. It's at the end of your career, that team you've been a part of for most of your career is like no longer like has need of you. So then you just money hop, you contract hop.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
We're like, clearly you're past the point. You should probably retire, but you don't care. There's enough teams that will pay you top dollar to come be a quarterback for a season. So you go, that's the Brett Favre, I would say.
All right.
And you have to add to it, because I don't think he's done this yet, the whole like actually explicitly stating I'm retiring and then coming back.
Brett Favre did that since he was in his prime. Favre used to do that every year. Say, I'm not going to be one of those guys who hangs on too long. I mean, he hung on way too long. He was saying it every single year.
Shout out to Brett Favre, man. Shout out to him.
Best gunslinging quarterback I ever saw. If you want someone 5 picks but 6 touchdowns, that's your guy.
Do you include Drew Brees in the gunslinging conversation?
Maybe early on in his career, but not anymore. I mean, he's the most accurate passer in the history of the NFL by percentage.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I like Drew Brees. Shout out to Drew Brees.
You know where he's from?
Is he from Texas?
He's from Westlake Academy which is like near Austin. It's the same high school that the quarterback Sam Ellinger, who's the quarterback now, as you know, it went to. And Nick Foles went there too.
You know, I wish someone would like count how much time is spent on this show by Gary talking about sports that aren't boxing. It must be a lot of time. I wonder. I want like a pie chart of like the percentage of like boxing, baseball, basketball, football for Gary on this show. That'd be interesting.
Football is the least though, like of the 3 major sports. And this is weird because I'm from Texas. Football is my least favorite.
That is shocking because you're from Texas. Moving on. Gary, you want to talk about Dubois Joyce obviously shitting the bed? Well, not the fight. Dubois shitting the bed, we should say. I thought it was a fun fight for what it was.
It was a good fight.
Wasn't the fight of the year, obviously, but it was a good fight.
I wish Joyce didn't. Look, I'm going to open up with this.
Yeah, you have to like say some apologies to Joe Joyce and his family or something.
I was wrong. I thought this. I didn't call you stupid because that's more Matt speed. I don't really do that. I would just make it seem absurd and basically call you stupid if you pick Joe Joyce to win. So I need to apologize for that. I need to admit 2 things. Joe Joyce is better than I gave him credit for. I don't really understand how, but he's better than what I gave him credit for. And Dubois is not as good as I thought he was. Okay, I thought he was going to be faster. I thought the hand speed was going to be not that I thought Dubois was, Sugar Ray Leonard, but like I thought the hand speed compared to Joe Joyce was going to be night and day difference. And he was quicker, but it wasn't the difference you would think. Mm-hmm. And what you can't account for, because Dubois never really been tested, was that he had no heart. I didn't know that. I mean, there's no way to know that until you're pushed, right? And he took a jab, looked at it, said, my eye hurts. I'm going to quit now. And that was it. But Joyce was landing that. Joyce's jab is really good. I thought he wasn't going to win the battle of a jab because he's too slow and he's not really any longer than Dubois. And, I didn't see any path to victory and how Joe Joyce could even be competitive in this fight. Right. And I think he lost most of the rounds. I think the judge that had it 8-1, about right. 7-2, 6-3, the closest. The only judge that I thought was a travesty was the one that had it for Joyce. He didn't land any right? How many right hands did he land in that whole fight? One of consequence in the 9th round. Did he land any body shots?
That's not true. Like I said, I was watching the fight again right before the show started, and me and Gary were talking. And Gary, you said that same line before the show, and I counted, and he landed like 3 right hands right after you said that. I think in the 7th round.
Was that what it was? 7th round? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like when I said Larte put hands on Dubois. I went back and watched that fight. It was one hand. It was a good shot. Dubois buckled him and then went to finish him. And when he came in, he was coming in wild. And Lartey caught him with something short on the inside and backed him up. So when I said hands, that was an overstatement. It was really just one shot. It was really a hand.
I'll state this. Obviously, like Gary, I was quite adamant that Joe Joyce really didn't have it for the top 10 or top 15, to be quite honest. I think he had borderline top 15 guys, and that was kind of where he was going to be at for the rest of his career. I was wrong to a degree. I think he can obviously, hang inside maybe the top, end of the top 10 or the bottom end, depending how you look at it. And like Gary said, I mean, I think I underrated his skill set and a little bit of his athletic ability too. Like, he was a lot more nimble in there than I thought he could be. His ability to get off the center line was pretty consistent and quick and just versatile, so to speak. Allowed him to go to the body a lot with the jab, allowed him to get out of any sort of danger from Dubois, who really didn't have much to kind of counter that. Like, I never saw a lot of lead left hooks from Dubois, and I thought like that would be an easy shot to sort of use and start utilizing to stop the lateral movement of Joe Joyce, to stop his head movement as well, because he kept dipping to where the left hook from Dubois would land. And he just never decided to really utilize that. He kept wanting to battle it out with the jabs with Joyce, and he was losing that battle without a doubt. He tried to counter with right hands occasionally, but anytime Joyce would go to the body with his jab, you never saw Dubois step in and try to go with the right hand, down the pipe, sort of textbook stuff you're taught. It was one of those fights where you come away with it thinking that Dubois needs a lot more work, and Joyce is clearly more ready for the top end of the division. And, I don't know who really was winning. I wasn't scoring the fight both times I've watched it, to be honest. It's one of those where I think it's really competitive. It's one of those where I think neither guy truly dominates in any key round. There's a couple rounds you might, say that it's really clear that that guy won, but most of the time there's no dominant performance in any of these rounds. It's Joyce landing jabs consistently, Dubois landing right hands occasionally that you would say are maybe more impactful. But at the end of the day, what had the more impact? It was the jab by Joe Joyce, because that made Dubois quit. So, look, you might laugh, but hey, that happens.
If the punch stat numbers like round 10, it's punches landed by Joyce, 1, power shots, none, and yet he wins by KO victory, not TKO, count out, knockout. Right? Have you ever seen that in all your life? Someone land one punch, no power shots, an entire round, and win by knockout? That is it's. I've never seen that before. I'm just utterly disgusted with what Dubois did. You're winning the fight.
Did he have a broken orbital bone?
What?
Did he have a broken orbital bone?
Eddie Hearn questions that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. That's what he said. Or someone.
Eddie Hearn's not even involved with the fight, so I don't care what Eddie says.
I
just don't. I don't care. That's like if Bob Arum talks about the fight, I don't care. Bob Arum, you're not in the UK. You're not the promoter of this fight. You have literally no involvement with this. I don't care what you say. So, was there any announcement that he has a broken orbital bone, or is just his eye swelling up? Because I'm telling you, if he has a broken orbital bone and he decides in the 10th round, dude, this pain feels like my head is splitting wide open. I cannot take this anymore. I'm okay with that. I've only heard about that pain. I've never had a broken orbital bone. I've had other injuries and broken bones and shit. I can only imagine what that feels like, and you're getting punched repeatedly. And I also will say this, that Gary, you're a connoisseur of boxing. The jab should never be underrated. The jab is one of the key punches in boxing. Obviously, it sets up everything, but also a strong jab can affect people. They can hurt people. We've talked about Triple G's jab in the past being a thudding jab and having a sort of power in its own. And Joe Joyce has obviously had a lot of comparisons to Triple G, similar trainers, of course. So,
look, yes. Okay, the jab, George Foreman. I'm a big Larry Holmes fan. Larry Holmes is my number one on my list of heroes. Obviously, I value the jab. George Foreman said this sport is easy when you know how to jab. Right? Yes, I agree. But when the other guy is landing jabs and right hands, right, and you're only landing jabs, you're losing. I'm not saying he wasn't having success. He absolutely was. And if that was his game plan, it worked. It just seemed to me that the game plan is I'm going to keep hitting him in his eye with a jab and nothing else, and eventually he'll quit. Maybe that was his game plan. I just don't think that's what they went to camp with. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I think it's really wrong to say that, yeah, Joyce was landing jabs, and then the other guy was landing jabs and right hands. It's like, no, he wasn't. He was not landing jabs. Dubois was able to counter Joyce at times and land a flurry of like 2 shots or 3 shots here or there. And that might swing him round because Joyce was only landing strong jabs. That is true. Like the 4th round and the 5th round, I think, were rounds where like Dubois did that 2 or 3 times. You know, where like Joyce sort of overextended with the jab. Dubois came with the right hand, tried to sort of have a mini flurry, and did that 2 or 3 times in the round, won the round. But it wasn't because of the jab. I mean, Dubois completely lost the battle of the jab. He kept trying to play that battle, but he lost it in every round, even the rounds he won. He was not winning the jabs. He was not landing more jabs. He's not throwing more jabs at all.
No, I agree with you. He lost the battle of the jabs, right? But he did land plenty of jabs. It's not like he was only landing right hands here. And I agree. Look, all
right. If you say that Dubois landed plenty enough jabs, then I can say Joyce landed plenty enough right hands.
You know what? I'm going to go back and watch the fight. I haven't watched it. I only watched it once because I was so disgusted by what Dubois did. But I'll go back and watch it. Maybe Dubois didn't land as many jabs as I'm thinking he did.
And Joyce landed more right hands than you think, too.
I'll be surprised. So I'm going to go back and watch it at the show, and I will report back to you. If there are more than 3 clean right hands in the whole fight and more than 1 body shot, I'll be shocked. But
hey, jabs to the body have effect, man. I'm telling you.
Body, but he didn't. No, jabs to the body can be good, and they can be good, and they can set other things up, right? If you go back when Mosley clocked Mayweather with the right hand, do you know what set that up? Jab to the body. He jabbed to the body, and then he threw the right hand right behind it.
And Joyce was landing tons of jabs to the body. Am I wrong? I mean, anytime
he didn't set anything else up with it. He didn't set anything else. He didn't throw off of it. He just threw the jab.
I don't think he wanted to. He clearly didn't want to get into like long exchanges with Dubois, which I don't blame him. He's the younger, in theory, heavier hitter, right? Like I don't blame Joyce for having the safety first mentality or strategy, let's say, in this fight, and it won him the fight. You know, like Dubois' head movement was non-existent, right? Dubois' ability to like cut off the ring was, I would say, not necessarily non-existent, but definitely needs a lot of work. Definitely needs a lot of work.
Dubois' head movement.
No. Dubois' head movement's non-existent. His ability to cut off the ring, I wouldn't say is non-existent, but needs a lot of work.
A lot of work, right? It's good enough against bad guys, but wasn't good enough against Joyce.
Yeah.
His head movement, like I would say, before you quit because your eye hurt, why not try to move your head? Like, why not try to just off center line here and there, just try to make that jab miss instead of just eating it every single time? Just a thought. I mean, did that ever come up in the corner? Like, hey,
his eye was swelling up pretty fast, though, man.
It was. Like, that's why I kind of think it was a fractured orbital bone because it swelled up fast and bad. But, you know.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens, man. And, you know, it was one of those where, like, it was one of those fights where I could see how anyone could have it wide, to be quite honest. Where, like, you give the other one only, like, 2 or 3 rounds, but, you know, have the other one up by, 7 rounds, something like that. I could see that. I could see someone having it for Joyce that way or having it for Dubois that way. If you're only looking at it from one perspective, right? If you have a bias towards the jab and Joyce sort of dictating the pace and the tempo of the fight, or if you like that, Dubois is landing the right hand and you think that's more impactful, more damaging shots. It's just how you perceive it, of course.
My biggest disappointment was that Dubois couldn't sustain that. He's fighting in spurts, right? Like he would fight in spurts, and it's not like the old days, like Holyfield or Joe Frazier, who could keep that up because they were 210 and athletic, right? So these guys are 260 now. What did Dubois weigh? 250? Like they're too big, right? They're too big. They can't keep that pace up, right? And I mean, if you couldn't get him out, Joyce did have that jab, and I had Dubois up, but you could have it closer. And like if we went to the scorecards, Dubois, if Dubois didn't quit, Joyce wins the last 3 rounds, probably, you would think, and may steal the fight on the cards just because Dubois couldn't get him out. And I didn't know, like, he would, and I get it. He's huge. Right? You're that big, right? It's like, why do flyweights throw more punches than heavyweights, right? Because they can keep it up. When you're that big, you can't fight 3 minutes of every round. Even like Holyfield did or Joe Frazier did. Like, you got to pick your spots. And when he wasn't picking his spots, he couldn't get out of the way of the jab. So
I'll be honest, I don't think it's as much of a cardio issue. I mean, maybe that's an issue because I don't think he was throwing as much in terms of combinations as he should have, especially a guy that is using lateral movement in that way. You got to go to the body with combinations more often. He just wasn't. So maybe it's a cardio issue. I thought he was just like wonderstruck by the jab, to be honest. Like, I thought it looked like he was a fish out of water quite early on in those like first couple rounds. And then, he had some success in the, rounds 4 to 7, let's say. But regardless, it just felt like Dubois did not know how to keep up with Joyce. It looked like someone getting demoralized more so than getting tired and more so than getting beat up per se. Even with the eye, it looked like someone was just like demoralized. It was like, damn, I can't really catch him. He's fucking jabbing me in the eye all day. Like all my shots aren't really having the effect I'm thinking they're going to have. I'm landing some good right hands and he's just eating them and he keeps moving out, punching me in the fucking eye. Now I can't see. My depth perception's off. It looked like that. Every time he went to the corner, it looked like a guy that was demoralized that did not want to keep going anymore. And that's just something that you have to get fixed, I think, through repetition, through time. Like you go through trials and adversity as a boxer, you get shaped by that. This is one time where he might have quit. Next time he won't. I think that's probably how it's going to be. Because I think that even though Gary's been pretty harsh on the whole, like he's a quitter line of thinking, and I've seen a lot of pushback on like boxing scene and other articles and think pieces about how like you can't call him a quitter and all that stuff. I think that
what's the word in the English language that we use to describe someone who quits? If you don't want to call him a quitter, what's that word? And we'll call him that.
I just don't think it matters because like think of Roberto Duran and the whole no mas situation. What do you do after that? Motherfucker was knocking out middleweights after that shit.
I ran Barkley at that and got himself back. I agree. Like, but this is the only time we've seen him push so far, and this is how he responded. Now let him come back, let him take a 10 fight, and then throw him in with somebody good, and let's see how he responds.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm not gonna like. I don't think it's time to write off Dubois. Of course, that's just preposterous. The guy's 20 years old.
No, yeah, I'm definitely not writing him off.
I know you're not. I'm saying that you're gonna get that online. You're gonna. That's I know. When I said that, I knew you were sort of peddling that talk more. I know that you don't actually think Dubois is a bum now, but there's plenty of people that say he's a quitter now, and then go now he's a bum. There's those sort of Neanderthal boxing fans that are out there saying that. That, Gary. Come on. So I gotta just push back. Like Dubois is 20-something years old. Like he's young. He clearly has the best of his career ahead of him. And I think these types of losses are actually super beneficial to prospects, to be quite honest. So I think he's going to bounce back sooner rather than later, especially with the heavyweight division. It's like he's completely going to fall out and he can't fight, Like, put it this way. If you have Dubois versus, like, Adam Wanaki right now, like, I'm going to pick Dubois.
Yeah, I still pick him to be those guys for sure. Like the kind of 10 to 15 kind of guys. Yeah, I pick him.
Or 10 to 20-ish guys, I should say. Absolutely. So shout out to the super chat.
So Dubois gets stopped by Joe Joyce, who people think the world of, and Dubois is shot like he's no good. According to the boxing public, right? Or some in the boxing public. Kwanaki gets stopped by Helenius?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be back. He'll be all right. Like it's like
no, that's not the case. No, that's not. No, people were absolutely out there saying that Kwanaki is a bum now. That was absolutely. Oh man, Helenius beat this guy's ass. Get him out of here. Absolutely.
Was that okay?
I'll be honest. I think even I came out on the show after that. I was like, remember when I said I wanted Big Baby Miller versus him? That'd be an awesome fight. just joking, guys. No, I want to be competitive. I'm pretty sure. Try to chase athletics and no IQ. At best, a good opponent won't be a champ. I don't think that's the case. When you're 20-something years old, like you're 21 years old and you don't have boxing IQ, that's an experience thing. And he's 20-something years old, so let him get experience. Like, you look at Canelo Alvarez when he was 19, 20 years old, 21 years old. Did he have great boxing IQ? Not so much. Nowadays, a shit ton. Like allow boxers to get the growth that they need. And that's only going to come with years of experience.
Right. I mean, I'm not comparing Joe Joyce to Floyd Mayweather, but Canelo fought Mayweather and got schooled and became better because of it. Dubois might be able to use this experience and become better because of it.
Or even fights like prior to that, like Austin Trout. Like there's like people out there think that Austin Trout beat Canelo, right?
Laura definitely beat him. The Trout thing could have gone either way. There were a lot of swing rounds in that. Laura schooled him.
It's just not true, Gary. It's not true at all.
That was your time to say, but he only landed a jab, and I thought you couldn't win a fight only landing a jab. Right? You could have got me there using my own logic.
That's true. I could have. But let's be honest. The jab of Laura was not the same of Joyce.
Laura did land some left hands. He did land some shots. Some. Joyce landed nothing. And Joyce got
he got stopped.
More than Laura did.
I literally was watching right before the show started. He 100% landed some really good right hands.
I'm going to stop saying that, but I'm going to go back and watch. I'm going to recount. I'm going to go back and watch. I remember one. Matt, you're saying it was the seventh round?
I think it was the seventh round. I think it was the seventh round.
The fight. I remember it. Yeah.
It wasn't early. Early, it was just the jab. I will say that. But later on, yeah, he was landing right hand, especially when Dubois started like really slowing down to a degree because he just like couldn't. Again, being demoralized, in my opinion. I thought he was far more susceptible to the right hand, and Joyce was landing more right hands. Matthew D'Souza in the chat. Hold on, Gary.
Right.
Saying, and fighters recover from that type of injury that Dubois suffered. If it was a broken or orbital bone, he can recover in a sense, but as like Gary and I have discussed with other people throughout like combat sports history, they usually aren't the same after that. Like they're usually a lesser version of themselves. If it's a fractured orbital bone, I've seen fighters recover from that. To be honest, I've seen it. It's harder, but I've seen fighters recover from that and do quite well. It just depends.
I forgot what I wanted to say.
I'm sorry, Gary.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
What do you want from Joyce next? What do you want? What do you want to see?
I want to see him fight Usyk. I know that promotionally that's going to be difficult, but him fighting, like we talked about that with Dubois, like who does he fight next? Like there's promotional issues. I would like to see him fight Usyk. I don't know how that gets made. I guess Eddie Hearn, it has to be made on DAZN because Eddie Hearn right now has way more leverage than Frank Warren does. So I guess it gets made over there, but I don't know. I mean, Top Rank, unless he's getting Fury, which wouldn't be next because Fury wants a tune-up and then he might fight Wilder again, likely. So that's going to have to wait. I don't know what they have on his side. I would like to see him fight Usyk because then Usyk will school him and then I can get back at Rob and I can redeem myself on Usyk. And
do you think that the Usyk-Joyce fight is more competitive than it was when they first fought in the World Series of Boxing? Like
no.
6 years ago? You don't think there's any difference from then to now?
That was in 2013. I went back and watched it.
7 years ago.
7 years ago. Yeah. Went back and watched it. Like that was one-sided, man. No, I don't like skill. Is Joe Joyce going to throw a right hand because he's not going to win that fight just on the jab, right? Like the speed difference in that fight, the hand speed difference in that fight is going to be mesmerizing, right? Like, and now Usyk doesn't have power at heavyweight. He doesn't, and that's going to be a problem. But not against Joyce, because Joyce doesn't throw right hands.
Okay, I think it's more competitive. I still think Usyk wins, but I do think it's more competitive. I'll say that. I think Usyk has degressed or regressed, I should say. I'll be honest.
Maybe. I mean, he's 33 now. Like he's
in a division he shouldn't be fighting in.
Kind of. Although that what do they call it? Not welterweight. What's the what the heck are they calling it? The bridge weight is made for him. He can just fight.
No, we're just not going to do that. No.
can fight Deontay Wilder and Steve Cunningham over and over and over again.
I just want to throw up just the mere mention of that.
How about Gassiev? I predicted when Gassiev moved up to the heavyweight division, he was like 24, that he would be a heavyweight title holder, one of the 4 major title holders. Then he took 2 years off for absolutely no reason, and now he's 27. Was that a ridiculous comment?
Hold on. Somebody asking what Bridgerweight, whatever it is. The World Boxing Council, the WBC, wanted to make a new division between heavyweight and cruiserweight.
And it's 224 is the limit, right?
I don't care.
You know what? 5 years from now, all the weight classes are going to have it. And what we're talking about like it's any other weight class.
No, we won't. No, we won't.
How big?
Why?
You think 240-pound guys can shrink down and make that weight? They can, right?
Gary, do we have to?
Well, you're not solving the problem. You're just making big guys shrink down.
Gary, I don't care. I don't care. You know, I'm of the opinion we should get rid of divisions. You know me.
I'm with that. Just instead of having 105 and 108, just have 106. Instead of having 112 and 115, just have 113. Right?
Yeah.
Like you don't need.
Yeah. I'm probably in favor of getting rid of actually just going back to like the old school, like get rid of like super featherweight, get rid of all the supers and juniors. Fuck it. Why not?
Harder to get a belt that way. Less sanctioning fees. More weight classes, more belts, more sanctioning fees.
More money. I hate the sanctioning bodies. You know, it's so sad when like every single issue in boxing comes back down to sanctioning bodies. And we get people like what's her name? That promoter out of Philly. Raging Babe.
I don't actually know her real name.
Michelle Rosado?
I don't know. You could have said anything right there. Like I don't know her name.
She's out there saying, you know what, if we just the number one issue in boxing is that people just don't work together. Like, what is that? Like, that's not even an issue. Like, that's like an ethereal thing. Like, that's like the number one issue in the world is Santa Claus. Like, Santa Claus is a fucking made up shit. Like, it's not real. Like, what are you talking about here? Okay, like this whole idea, like people just need to work together. Like, what are you talking about? We have an entire system that is supposed to be designed for that, and it doesn't. That's the issue. But you will never see any promoter ever actually go after the sanctioning body. Why? Because they all piggyback off each other. They all rub each other's backs, man. That's what it is. That whole like that. Look, I'm not gonna say like it's a overt like money laundering scheme between the sanctioning bodies and promoters, but it kind of feels like that like half the time. That's all I'm gonna say. Fuck the mafias. As an old school caller from Name Redacted used to say. What else? Anything on this card that we want to talk about? I didn't see anything else on this card. I mean, I watched the undercard, but like I'll be honest, I think I was watching like another card at the same time, so I just kind of zoned out and then I missed the main event, came back to it later. So Gary, any other thoughts on this card?
What else was on the card? I know Catterall fought, right? That was this card.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that. I mean, he looked fine. And then what was the co-main? There's another heavyweight fight, wasn't it, or no?
It was. Well, I'm on BoxRec. I don't know if it's in order. I hope it's not in order because right now the only other heavyweight fight was a guy that's 3-0 versus a guy that's 4-1. Was that the co-main event?
What are those names?
David Adela versus Danny Whitaker.
No. What was that? What are the other fights on the card?
Hamza Shiraz versus.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, the 154 prospect who's really tall and lanky.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, that guy was good. I mean, I don't know how good he is, but he's good. He's good.
I'll go back and watch it for that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fight that was clearly the worst fight of the weekend. Daniel Jacobs versus Gabriel Rosado. Oh my God.
To quote Errol Spence on Twitter, the hell is Jacobs doing?
I have never there's been times obviously where I don't care who wins the fight at the end of the fight. Like I don't care what the scorecards are. I fundamentally do not care. It was a drag to get through. I hated the process, right? This might be like pound for pound number one in that category of fights. Where like I just didn't care who won or who won the fight. Like when the MC was like rating off the scorecards, I could care less. When the whole fiasco of like, oh, it's a fighter from Philadelphia, Brooklyn, New York, and cameras, I was like, what the fuck, man? I didn't even laugh at that. I just didn't care. I was so nauseated from that entire 12 rounds. That was the worst fight I have potentially ever seen. And I've seen a lot of shitty fights, but that was up there. Gary, am I hating too much on?
No. Again, I was the same way. I scored the fight. I scored it for Rosado 7-5.
That's fine. I don't care.
It's fine. Like, I felt the same way. And then people are saying Gabe got robbed. No, he didn't get robbed. He was just a drastic underdog who was more competitive in a really awful fight than you may have thought. Right? But he didn't get robbed. And there were so many swing rounds in there. I mean, Jacobs may have won. I may have gave rounds to Rosado on my card just because, like, he's doing good. Like, he's doing, you know, like, there was no robbery. Like, I don't care how you had that thing scored. That fight was What's funny is that someone referenced Sergio Mora's fight to Shane Mosley. And Sergio was like, I landed shots. Like, no, your fight with Mosley looked just like this. And I paid for that. That was one of the fights I paid $70 for because I was a big Mosley fan. And I'm watching that fight. It's the same thing with like Jacobs. It's like, boy, I don't even know if Mosley won enough rounds to win this fight. And that fight was a draw, right? Yeah, that was a draw. And like it's like, did Jacobs win? I don't know, but like, did Rosado win? I don't know if he can come up with 7 rounds. He definitely won either. So it's like, I had no. That fight was awful. It was dreadful. But the only thing that you liked was that the underdog, who we all like Gabe Rosado to some degree, right? Like he's a tough guy who fights everybody, was doing better than you thought. If that guy's name wasn't Gabe Rosado, if that was Pete Thompson and he lost, you wouldn't care, right? Because he didn't get robbed. It was a horrible fight in a very close decision, and the scorecards couldn't be any closer than they were. Like the judges got it right by having it that close. And the only reason why you were upset is because you personally like Gabe Rosado and wanted him to get the decision.
I think Gabe Rosado has me blocked. I don't know why. I think he does. I vaguely remember like back on Name Redacted, and this is like, you know, years ago now at this point in time, of me, like I was supposed to go to Philadelphia for like a media thing with Gabe Rosado, but I don't think I was allowed to come because I don't think Gabe liked me.
What did you say about Gabe?
I don't know, man.
That's really likes. If you said anything bad about him, I mean, Name Redacted really likes him a lot.
You know me. I make fun of fighters.
All right. I mean, like, if you can't take it, then that's fine. Like, it's okay. No hard feelings. If you're that sensitive, you're that thin-skinned. Okay.
I mean, I don't think I said anything like overtly mean, like he's a punching bag.
You talked about his wife or his mother, did you?
No.
You know, okay. If he's talking about his skills, it's fair game. Like, whatever.
All right. Especially back in the day, it could have just been me on Twitter because I definitely popped off on Twitter back in the day at anyone and everyone. But that's beside the point. I thought Gabe probably won the fight, to be honest. I didn't score it. I didn't care to score it, but like off of just watching it, Jacobs did nothing in this fight. Like he did nothing of note. He never seemed to like press on the gas pedal, obviously. He never even like tried to like just throw the jab with any consistency. Like he didn't even like try to do that basic thing, like even like Joe Joyce did, right? Like he didn't even do that. Like he was content with just being at like boxing range with Gabe and like occasionally throwing a shot and like occasionally just like slipping out of a shot from Rosado, and that was it. And it was that for 12 rounds. This was Jacob's last fight on DAZN, Gary. Any thoughts on sort of network free agent now, Daniel Jacobs? Because even though he's coming off of a very boring fight and a controversial decision, let's call it, he still is one of the top guys at 168, just from name value alone, probably. Let's be honest.
Andre Rozier should win Trainer of the Year for that performance from Daniel Jacobs, by the way, right? Because Rozier didn't work his corner for that fight, and you see how he looked. Um, I think he stays with what he's doing. I think he stays at with Eddie. And it might be a short-term
He's not.
deal.
He's not a promotional free agent. He's a network free agent.
Oh, he's only a network free agent.
Mhm.
Oh, well, okay. Well, then, like that kind of.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it's only his own contract is the one that concluded, not his Matchroom contract.
Oh, then this really opens up a lot of options for him because then Eddie can still promote him over on the other side of the street against Charlo or one of those guys, or have him fight Andre or Billy Joe Saunders or someone like that on this side. So he's actually in a really good spot now. I was going to say he's going to have to choose. Does he want to fight Billy Joe or does he want to fight Charlo and possibly Plant? Right? I mean, he's going to have to make up his mind. But now it seems like he does it. It seems like he's in a position.
Oh, yeah, actually, it is a promotional contract too. Okay. It's both. It's both.
I mean, if I was Eddie, and I know Eddie needs to bring a result to his own too, so Eddie's going to want to bring that fight to his own. But like, why not sign with Eddie and stay a network free agent? Meaning that if Eddie can broke out a deal for you to go fight on Fox or Showtime against Plant or Charlo or Benavidez or whoever they have over there, do that. And if not, and Eddie can keep him in-house with his Billy Joe Saunders and Andre and those guys. Callum Smith. Like, why not do that? Like, it opens up both avenues to you instead of shutting one down.
I think that's the smart play. I don't think that happens, though. It's the smart play, especially for Eddie Hearn. I don't think Eddie Hearn resigns Jacob. I don't think he's really got his, like, ROI on.
I think he really thought, like, in his heart of hearts, that Jacobs was going to be the guy that beat Canelo. And then when that didn't happen, he's like, oh.
He's thinking he's an African American boxer. That it's a huge demographic in the sport.
From
obviously,
New York,
from
great
New York,
story.
you know, and he's a personable guy. Like anyone that's like interacted with Jacobs, like like he's a fun guy to be around. He's a good interview. He's a nice guy. Like he checks a lot of boxes in terms of like marketability and branding. And
Kevin Durant, right? Without the weirdness that Kevin Durant brings, right? Like the weird, I'm going to troll your girl online if you say anything bad about me on the internet, right? Like he's likable, he's good looking, he's affable, he dresses well, like he's sharp, like, you know what I'm saying?
I like Kevin Durant comparison.
Then he's got a great backstory too. He beat cancer.
And he just hasn't transcended, obviously, from the boxing side. Ryan in the chat, I always read the chat. Don't worry. Saying, yo, Matt, read the chat. I always read the chat. I may not repeat everything you guys say. Sorry. Because, trying to talk here with Gary and trying to have a show. Jacobs is one of those guys where I think he just has clearly hit a ceiling in terms of star power and marketability. Not obviously a one-to-one analog, but like maybe similar to Terrence Crawford. Right? Where like there's just a certain threshold of how much you can really be a star in the mainstream pop cultural zeitgeist, right? And that just happens. Sometimes people just, for whatever reasons, for myriad of reasons, you cannot sort of transcend your plateau of stardom. And that can be fine. Regardless, though, I still think Jacobs, respective to his stardom, is still probably one of the bigger names at 168. Like, let's be honest here. Like, in terms of Dave Benavidez, Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Daniel Jacobs might have better metrics than all of them in terms of gate revenue, attendance, TV viewership when he was on HBO. Like, Daniel Jacobs might actually have enough in his pocket to still have leverage when it comes to being a free agent. So that's interesting. I just want to point that out, that even though we in the circle know that Daniel Jacobs has sort of hit his ceiling is clearly one where he can still have a commanding sort of voice in a negotiation with the promoter or a network, I will say. He is still with Al Heyman, so that connection is not severed. I think right now, I think he said, or it was Keith Conley that said, his manager, I forget which one that said it, referring to the Canelo Alvarez, Callum Smith fight as sort of a wait and see moment. And I do think that we're not going to get any information about Jacobs till Canelo, Callum Smith happens. Because let's say Callum Smith wins somehow, right? I know it's not likely, but let's say he wins. Then the next fight you would probably make is on DAZN with Matchroom, right? That would probably make sense. if Canelo wins, you're following Canelo. Like he is, even though they've already fought, you're still following the golden goose again. Like that's the reality, right? He's the only golden goose in that weight range, except for Triple G. But
Right.
Triple G's tied up with DAZN. He's going through contract restructuring, allegedly. He's fighting his mandatory next. Maybe he's not really what you're thinking about right now. Maybe you're thinking about Canelo again and how to get to him. So if I'm Jacobs, I just wait and see till Canelo counts Smith. And on top of that, I might just approach it as a promotional free agency going forward. Go as a mercenary. Sign one fight contracts with promoters, and that's it. That's probably what I would do if I'm Daniel Jacobs, because there's enough parity at 168 to where like no single entity has a monopoly at the top. Matchroom has 2 champions. PBC has 2 champions. I would just wait. See what happens.
Do you think he beats any of those guys at 68? Because he didn't look good against Chavez, and he didn't look good against Gabe. Do you think he beats Benavidez? Do you think obviously he doesn't beat Flint? Okay.
I'm chalking up the Gabe fight to it's Gabe, and Jacobs didn't get up for it, didn't care for it.
Chavez Jr. fight up to, because that wasn't good either. I mean, he won because Chavez quit after his best round, but he did not look good in that fight.
I've always said Chavez, if he tries, is underrated.
Okay, so you're saying Chavez tried? Okay.
Am I wrong in that? Have I always been a little bit consistent on that?
You have.
Okay. Just want to check me if I've been inconsistent. I thought Chavez tried for like 3 or 4 rounds, and I was like, "Fuck, man, I'm getting hit again. I'm out of here." Like that's what I thought. That's what I think happened in that fight. But I do think Jacobs can beat Billy Joe Saunders. I think Callum Smith is a hard fight. That's a 50-50 fight. I don't think he beats Benavidez. And Plant's one of those where who gets off the better shots and is able to steal rounds.
He ain't beating Plant. He got outboxed by Gabe Rosado. He's not beating Plant.
Yeah, but that was a Jacobs that wasn't trying. That was not even throwing combinations.
That's true. I think his best days are behind him. I think I don't think he beats Caleb Plant. I don't think he beats Andre. Billy Joe and
he beats Andre. Stop. Demetrius Andre?
Yeah.
The Andre that barely beat Vanderman and Rosen 7 years ago, and that's still his only notable win.
That's 7 years ago. That's true. He still doesn't have a good win, although I think Jacobs at this point is crazy on a decline. I don't think I've always said I like.
What's Andre doing then?
He's just not fighting anybody. He was supposed to fight on that card. He's supposed to fight Aaron Hernandez on that card.
Yo, Liam Williams is gonna beat up Andre. What are you talking about, man?
Is that fight happening? He's fighting Liam Williams?
It's not happening, but it's what's the date for it? Hold on. February is probable for Providence, says Eddie Hearn.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Here we go.
All right. No, that's look, he's not gonna Andre's not gonna lose to Liam Williams, but that's a decent fight. That's a fair enough scrap. He's not gonna lose. You think he's gonna lose?
Yeah. Like gun to my head right now, I'm picking a winner for that fight. I'm picking Liam Williams. I thought he beat Liam Smith both times handedly, to be honest.
Did he get knocked out by Liam Smith once?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
You like that? That was good, huh? Oh man. No, come on. Okay, Andre is one of those guys that he wins the first 3 rounds and checks out.
Absolutely. Sometimes after 2. If you can't get him out after 2, then he quits. Not quits. He just becomes disinterested. Kind of like James Harden on defense. It's like in the first 3 quarters, like whatever.
I like an Andrade James Harden comparison. Though I still think it's not apt because at least James Harden has put up numbers. You know, like Andrade's done what? Even the fights he wins, he doesn't put up like punch stats.
No. For 2 rounds he does, and then that's it.
2 rounds. The best part is when he gets knockdowns early and then just like stops.
It totally stops. It's like I couldn't get him out in 2 rounds, so we're just gonna go 12. We got to see the scorecards at this point.
We have to now. Sorry guys. Sorry fans. My bad. That's how we have to do it. Oh God. Shit.
Coming out in the middle rounds, like a 6-round knockout, that never happened. So once he gets past the second, it's just like, well, this is inevitable now. Now I can't get him out. Now we just have to go to the cards.
Oh God, so good. So you think Jacobs loses to Andrade, Charlo, and all the top 4 guys at 168 too? So Joe Saunders, you think outboxes Jacobs?
No, that's an interesting one because Billy Joe doesn't show up at times either. Gun in my head, I'd probably pick him to beat Billy Joe.
Okay.
Gun in my head, I'd probably pick Callum Smith to beat him.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning Callum Smith versus Daniel Jacobs, to be honest. I think he takes away a lot of the advantages Daniel Jacobs likes to employ, especially at 160. Now he's no longer at the division. He's not going to be the bigger guy with the longer reach. That affects the fighter.
It's the interesting one. I don't know who I'd pick in that fight.
The Benavidez one?
Yeah. If he fought Benavidez, I don't know who I'd pick.
Benavidez would walk him down, I think.
Maybe. I think Jacobs is doesn't he's used to at 160 being the bigger guy in the ring. I think he doesn't like not being the bigger guy in the ring. I think Benavidez might do that too, where it might be one of those things is Jacobs is winning rounds, but Benavidez is breaking him down.
Absolutely. What else was on this card? This was a good card, actually, in terms of depth. Hold on, let me get back to it. The Emmanuel To-Go versus Mason Menard fight. Man, To-Go is not ready to go to the top.
No, he's not ready to go. I mean, the one judge that scored that even, that's not fair either. But To-Go is not ready to go. That's true.
Dude, he like struggled with Mason Menard, man.
That's not good, man. It was not a draw. Like, so the people saying the judge is wrong. The judge that scored it even, that was not a draw. It was not a good performance.
It was really competitive, and I think To-Go only won by a round or two, to be honest. So it's not saying it's not a draw doesn't really mean much. Like it was one where To-Go just did not look elite in any way. Like Kambosos beats To-Go, right? Yeah. Okay. A guy that I know you hate on as a prospect. Nikita Bobby picked up a win against Brandon Maddox. I actually kind of forget how this fight went. How did this fight go?
It was
a while now. It's been a couple days.
It went the distance. White Chocolate kind of was just loading up on everything and not landing too much cleanly. Like, look, there's a lot to like about White Chocolate. I know Rob likes him. I get it. But he's still fundamentally not sharp, right? Like he loads up on everything. Everything is wide. Like, he doesn't pick his shots well. Like Danny Garcia knows exactly when to load up on things, right? Like this kid just loads up on everything. And he's not getting better. Like he's not. This is the same thing. When he blows people out, he's going to look spectacular because he throws a lot of big shots and he's got thudding power. So when he lands early and he gets people out, you can like when he got Isaiah Saldana, you're like, whoa, look at this guy. But when he doesn't land clean, like he can easily be outboxed. He gets hit a lot. This guy's a recipe for ticket sales in New York. Like he could be a local star, sell a ton of tickets. I just don't know how high. Maybe his ceiling is high, but he's getting hit right now. He's got a long, long way to go.
Yeah, agree. Your man's Julius Ndongo. Man, lost bad to Daniel Alusinov.
Yellen Yusinov looked good. How are we saying his name? Yellen Yusinov? Or how do we say it now?
Yalusinov.
Yalusinov. Okay.
Yeah, you're saying it right. Yeah.
Okay. He looked really good. That was a really good performance. Again, I don't know. Did I go picking Dongo? I didn't, right?
No, you didn't. Luckily, you didn't. He was still your man's, though.
I wanted to pick him. I was like, this is too crazy at this point.
Yeah.
Yelling you. And Eddie's talking about putting him in with Virgil Ortiz.
What? That would be a good fight, though. I mean, in terms of realistic, we're gonna talk about it later on with Oscar wanting Ortiz versus Crawford. We're gonna talk about that later. I like the Lucinov fight more for Ortiz than Crawford right now. It makes more sense.
How does that fight make sense for Virgil Ortiz? He's already the bigger prospect. He's the more touted prospect. This is not the step, and this is not the big name that Virgil Ortiz would want.
There's no big name. There's no big name available for him. And I also don't think he needs to fight a big name right now. He's young enough to maybe he can just take another year of experience before he fights the top guys. That would make sense in my opinion. If I'm like his handlers, right? I don't want him to fight the top 4 or 5 guys right now. I want him to still fight, top 15 guys. Am I wrong in that? Like, would that not make a little bit of sense to give him a little more experience?
He's such a special prospect, right? Like he's such a unique talent. It's like, I mean, if it was a normal prospect, like a good prospect, yes. But this guy is like different. I mean, this guy's cut from a different cloth. It's like with Teofimo Lopez when he went right from beating Nakatani to Richard Coleman. We're like, that's way too big of a step. Well, no, it's not because he's that good, right? Virgil Ortiz is that good.
You're in favor of him fighting Rashidi Ellis, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's the difference? Lusanov is way has a better resume than Rashidi Ellis, doesn't he? He does.
Yeah, I was. How many fights does Jan Lusanov have? 10?
10.
And I mean, Rashidi Ellis has 20 something fights.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's no real reward. Like there's no, like no one like we do, but like outside of us, no one cares about Jan Lusanov.
Like, I mean, Gary, come on. Like, who else would you honestly have him fight right now that's not in the top 5 because they're all busy?
If I could pick Josh Kelly.
What? You pick a worse prospect than Lusanov.
Bigger name, blow Josh Kelly.
No, not anymore. Not anymore, man.
Let me take Josh Kelly back. Somebody with a name who he can blow out. Like, well, he's gonna blow everyone out.
That was like
Keith Thurman's not available. Keith Thurman's not busy. Fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman's not busy. Now I know Oscar De La Hoya would have to get off the couch and make that happen. So that's not going to happen. So you want a realistic name that sit on the couch and make it happen?
Because Lusanov is realistic. It's a good name and it's realistic. Keith Thurman is neither right now. Somebody in the chat saying, "Oh, people in the chat on." I'm bringing up David Avanesian.
Okay, fine. There's a name.
Luis Collazo. Ray Robinson.
That's fine. I mean, these names are fine. Luis Collazo, it's okay. He's too shot though.
Delorme is tied up. That's usually our go-to name, right, for the gatekeeper. He's tied up with Enos, most likely. I mean, Josito Lopez.
Same camp though.
Oh, like, right. I always forget that. My bad. Figueroa's not on the same camp, is he?
I would love that fight, but can we?
It might be that might be an issue of realistic because or
Figueroa's at the bar right now. Yeah.
right now. Yeah, that's true.
No, I would love that fight. That'd be North Texas versus South Texas. That'd be a great fight. Let's do that.
I mean, honestly speaking, it does kind of make sense for him to fight another prospect right now within his own sort of network stable. The names that come to mind are either going to be Rashidi Ellis, Conor Benn, or Daniel Lusanov.
Oh, Conor Benn would be big over there, but if I were him, I wouldn't go over there to fight Conor Benn.
Why not? I mean, there's a long tradition of U.S. fighters going out to the UK to fight a big name UK guy.
Is Conor Benn a big enough name to do that? Do you think he can sell tickets if he fought Conor Benn over there?
Guys in the chat, let's say this fight happens in the summertime next year. Let's say best case scenario, there's a vaccine, you get attendance again. Would a Conor Benn, Virgil Ortiz headline at like a smaller venue, of course, would that be a decent event in the UK for all of our UK listeners? I'm curious your thoughts on that. I see a lot of people talking about Ugas, and I would agree that Ugas versus anyone is always a great fight because Ugas is always a fun fighter.
Sure. You know, that fight's fine. That's a good fight. The Conor Benn fight it's fine. If he wants to go over there, if that can sell tickets, if that can sell out a 10,000 seat arena in the UK, then go do it. If that's your biggest payday, then I would say go do it. I just don't know if Conor Benn is a draw over there, but that would be worth it for him.
You know, obviously this guy didn't pick up the win, but if Chris Clayton had picked up that win against Sergey Lipinets, that would have been an interesting name against some of these prospects too.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah. Moving on. Oh, Maurice Hooker.
He wants that fight. Yeah, let's do that. Virgil Ortiz is begging for that fight.
That'd be a good fight. I like that one.
I don't want to see it for personal reasons, but yeah, I mean that's a great fight.
Oh God, it's all right. It's all right. Moving on. Any other fights that happened this weekend? Oh, Tony Yoko beat Christian Hammer like by unanimous decision, right? Yeah, I didn't watch the fight. I was busy. Gary, how was it?
I remember watching it. I don't remember being impressed by it. I think Tony Yoko.
Went by a jab.
I think so. I think it was. I remember watching it and saying, "I don't see anything here." Like it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, right? Like Rob would say, it was decent enough. But like I didn't see like this guy is the future or anything like that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people kind of hating on it, to be honest. Like someone in the chat saying right now, it's a terrible fight. Yeah. I'll probably go back and watch it just because I do like Tony Yoko. I think he has some potential, but man, a 10-rounder in the heavyweight division, that shit, those are rough to get through. They are. Let's get to the news of the day or of the week. Let's start with your man's, Gary, Oscar De La Hoya, talking spicy about everything. I mean, everything. He got on a call with Dan Rayfield and just kept talking, apparently. And there's 3 different aspects of this I want to talk about in terms of Oscar. Him talking about Ortiz versus Terrence Crawford. And obviously, I want to talk about the idea of Crawford being potentially swooned by DAZN, or the idea or rumors of Oscar leaving DAZN for ESPN. I want to talk about that. Oscar saying that Garcia Campbell is going to be near an Aztec pyramid. I just want this fight, man. Like, what the hell?
I mean, that sounds cool. I don't know the feasibility of it. It sounds cool.
And also then calling out Golovkin in a comeback fight and stating that he's faster than him. And when asked, hey, like, you're pretty old. Shouldn't you, like, you not do this? His response was, yeah, but Golovkin's old too. Gary, what do you want to start with your man's Oscar?
Let's start with this because the absurdity of this. Look, I come on here every day and say that Golovkin was overrated, always overrated, and is now overrated and shot. Look, he's still a top 10 guy in the weight class, even being overrated and shot. Like,
still top 5. I mean, Canelo's not in the division anymore. Jacob's not in the division anymore.
This is so absurd and so ridiculous. Like, what happened to Sergio Martinez? Like, what happened to that? Like, you guy your age, now you want to fight Golovkin. Like, Golovkin is old. What is he, 15 years? How old is De La Hoya? He's got to be, he was 19 and 92, so that was 28 years. How old is he? He's got to be 50.
I don't know.
Like, this is a little bit ridiculous. Like,
he's been retired for 14 years. Yeah, I don't know. Corte called him out.
There you go. Corte beat him back in, what was that, 96, 97?
99.
99. Corte beat him then.
Yeah.
That was a bogus decision. But De La Hoya came back like a man and rallied late to get a decision. He's likely to deserve it. But that was a great fight. De La Hoya rallied, got the knockdown in the 12th round. That was a great fight.
De La Hoya, quote, you know how easy Triple G would be for me? Oh my gosh. Please make the fight. Is this a premiere fight for DAZN?
Wouldn't you pick up a subscription to watch it? Like, I hate these things, but like, I want to watch the train wreck that would be this fight.
Would you watch De La Hoya, Corte, or De La Hoya, Sergio Martinez on the Legends League from Mike Tyson?
What are the rules? How absurd are the rules? The same rules that we had yesterday, on Saturday, like similar to that.
Yeah, but the funny part is they ignored all the rules. Do you notice? It just was a fight.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I'd watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
You would be more intrigued by that than you would Tyson, Roy Jones? Or are they all sort of the same?
They're all kind of in the same basket, right? Like, I said I wasn't gonna watch Mayweather McGregor, and then I watched it. And then I said I wasn't gonna watch this crap, and then I watched it. Right? Like, I'll end up watching it.
Oh man. I mean, you didn't watch your boy Nate Robinson get knocked out?
I didn't watch that. Why is Nate Robertson my boy?
Because he was a Knicks player, and you used to live in New York, so therefore you're a Knicks fan.
Not a Knicks fan at all. All right. Nate Robertson played for a lot of teams.
You're a Mavericks fan, right?
No, I'm a Mavericks hater.
So you're a Houston Rockets fan?
No, I just don't like the Mavericks.
So you don't support any Texas basketball?
No, I just hate the Mavericks.
Is that a common thing in Texas?
No, right?
Okay.
So I hated the Mavs when they were awful, and then they drafted Jason Kidd. I don't really like the Mavs, but I really love Jason Kidd. And then they traded Jason Kidd. So I was like, I'm the worst team ever, right? I was like, I just hate this team now. I hated them more than I did before. And then when I went to college, Jason Kidd got traded to the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to New Jersey, which was only a 45-minute train ride, and go watch Jason Kidd in this swamp. So I became a Nets fan. And I still like Nets. Like when I was a kid, when I was real little, I liked the Lakers because they had Magic Johnson. But then Magic Johnson got aged and retired, so I was like, I don't really care about Lakers anymore. So then I just hated the Mavs. And then the Mavs got Jason Kidd. All right, maybe I like this team. And then they traded Jason Kidd.
You don't like Dirk? What's his name?
No. Why?
He was lovable.
I don't like it because he played with the Mavs, and I hate the Mavs.
And
the Rockets and the Spurs, I don't really care about the Rockets and the Spurs. I just hate the Mavs.
Oh man, so sad. Oh man. Anyway,
if they trade Jason Kidd, I wouldn't hate them, right? I would have okay. I started liking when they had Jason, and they traded Jason Kidd. I was like, well, I just hate this team. And then it just worked out that the year I went to college, my freshman year, he was traded to the Nets. So I was like, all right, I'll be a Nets fan. And then that just kind of stuck.
Which fight do you want to see more? Canelo versus Oscar De La Hoya, or Triple G versus Oscar De La Hoya?
Canelo, because it's gonna be personal.
Oh man, I want to see.
He may have a little heart and stop the beating. Canelo's not.
Canelo make it go round. God. Let's talk about Oscar wanting Ortiz versus Terrence Crawford. Now, I think this is a step too high or too much or too soon, I should say, for Ortiz. But it's clear that Golden Boy is in this precipitous position here where it seems at any point DAZN kind of wants to kick them out. Like we're getting rumors all the time now of this whole restructuring of the DAZN and Golden Boy deal is just Golden Boy getting their deal canceled by DAZN. So it does seem like the Golden Boy is a little bit desperate, of course. They just lost their cash cow. They're clearly not really, I think, promoting anything involving Canelo's next fight on DAZN. It's Matchroom and Canelo Promotions co-promoted event, I would assume, at this point in time. So it's not surprising we're getting Oscar mentioning a ton of crazy shit, like, fighting by Aztec pyramids, fighting Triple G, all that shit. And his, next big prospect, or only sort of prized prospect right now, because I don't think Ryan Garcia is lasting that long with Golden Boy. And I think he's quite aware of that. It's not surprising that Oscar is now stating that he wants Ortiz to fight Terrence Crawford to potentially get a belt and to sort of catapult him to some sort of legitimacy so he can make him his next golden goose. I get that. I wonder, in regards to the story, two things. One, would Terrence Crawford be enticed by any sort of DAZN money, or would DAZN want to throw Terrence Crawford a lot of money since he's been on ESPN and it's done, decent TV viewership? Would that be something that would happen? And two, is this really going to happen on DAZN? Is this something that we see get jettisoned to another network with Golden Boy no longer attached to DAZN? Gary, your thoughts obviously on the fight itself. I know you're going to say that Ortiz can win this and all that stuff, but also sort of the business side of the sport when it comes to this fight and the free agency of Terrence Crawford and how that plays into it.
I certainly think Ortiz can win the fight, right? I think this is just stylistically, I think he can physically impose his will more on Crawford than he could Spence. So if those are the only two titles he can get, right, because those are the only two people who hold belts, go this avenue. I think this is the better avenue for him because he can physically impose himself more on Crawford than he can Spence. as far I think Crawford is kind of like for my train zone. I'll just go wherever they offer me more money. It's the same job. I fight people, right? Whoever offers me more money to do that job is where I'm going to go. So if that's the zone, that's the zone. I think that's as much as he's considered. Like I don't really care. I'm just going to go wherever they pay me the most to do this, right? I don't now. The other half of that question was, does zone have that interest in it? I don't know the zones what they're going through financially right now, if they can or cannot afford that, right? Like they lost Canelo, but not really, but they did, right? Like Canelo doesn't fight on the zone anymore, although he's fighting on the zone, if that makes sense. Like obviously they've invested a lot of money into boxing, and I don't think they're getting their return. I wouldn't think, right? I don't know how interested they are in just throwing money at Crawford like they did at Fighters 2 years ago. I don't know. So I would say if that money is offered to Crawford, like more money than PBC offers him or Top Rank offers him, yeah, he would go there. I just don't know if that money is realistically if they're prepared to offer him that kind of money realistically. So my guess would be he signs with PBC, but if the zone offers him more money, I think it'll be that. But I don't foresee that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In regards to the zone, like let's say they're financially not in such a position to where they can't act aggressively if they can, right? Let's put it that way. Right? If a deal presents itself for a fighter or a piece of content presents itself that's intriguing enough, they will make an offer, right? Let's say that they're in that position at least. They're not in such a hole that they're not making any offers. It would be kind of obvious right now for the zone to try to get Terrence Crawford, right? Terrence Crawford's done good numbers on ESPN. He's done good numbers at the gate and in terms of attendance and in revenue. He was clearly the biggest figure for Top Rank and ESPN boxing until Tyson Fury came along. It would be a positive, a plus to their overall content ability, their content base to have Terrence Crawford. And it gives them sort of leverage now with the Earl Spences of the division and trying to get some sort of deal with them to get money out of that, sort of table. Gary, thoughts?
I would look. I would kind of like suggest what we just talking about for Jacobs for Crawford, or only sign one fight deals.
No. For Crawford, I think we would both agree that for him, if we're in his perspective, he should not sign any long-term network deals.
Right. No long.
But for DAZN's perspective, would it really is Terrence Crawford enough for them to throw out a big deal, so to speak, a Triple G size deal, not Canelo size deal?
The Triple G type deal. I don't know what they renegotiated it at, right? I don't think so, right? Like Crawford doesn't drive new subscriptions, I don't think, right? Like if you have the zone and Crawford's fighting, you'll keep it. Like how many sports fans, how many basketball fans who watch boxing a couple times a year are going to pick up the zone because of this? I don't think, and I know his ratings do good, but his ratings do good on ESPN. His pay-per-view numbers are abysmal, right? I don't think you get subscribers like your casual boxing fan who mainstream American sports fan to pick this up because of Terrence Crawford. I don't see that happening. I mean, look, if you're going to pick up anyone, that's the guy you'd want to pick up. I just don't see how throwing that kind of Triple G kind of money at him pays off in the long run. It didn't pay off with Canelo. You had to cut him loose. You had to renegotiate with Triple G. I don't think Crawford is the difference maker.
Agreed. Someone in the chat talking about, or asking, I should say, about the pay-per-view model when it comes to ESPN Plus versus a cable provider or buying a your cable provider. This is how it works, okay, for those who don't know. And it's a good question. I know a lot of people are a little bit unaware of this. The market average, let's call it that, is the overall revenue of the pay-per-view via cable providers. So let's say DirecTV, Dish, you have a cable box, right? You're buying a pay-per-view through that on that pay-per-view channel. Like for DirecTV, it's like 123, I think, is the pay-per-view channel. the average is around half of that money goes to pay-per-view distributors. That might be the cable provider itself. It might be a in-between entity or corporation. But again, that's the average. Depending who's fighting, who's the pay-per-view headliner, that varies. So, for example, Mayweather, he gets a better split on his pay-per-views than a first-time pay-per-view headliner, like, let's say, Terrence Crawford versus Victor Postal, right? That's how you sort of think of it. In regards to ESPN Plus, how that works in terms of the split, there is no split because it's a direct buy. You're buying it directly from the main network, meaning ESPN. It would be the same thing if you were to buy a Showtime pay-per-view through Showtime Anytime, right? There's no money going to a in-between pay-per-view distributor.
So in theory, it should be cheaper, but it's not, right? Because they already know what they can get, right? Because you've cut out, if you're ESPN, you've cut out your middleman that you're splitting with.
But now you're just collecting all the profit. So why would you?
You know what the price point is? I can sell it for $70. I'll just I get it. Yeah,
capitalism. Yeah, that's what it is. For those that don't understand, that's how it works. Okay, so for let's say ESPN and Bob Arum, they're promoting pay-per-view. They want more people to buy it on ESPN Plus, of course, because they get a higher percentage, obviously, of the profit margin. That makes obvious sense. But it's not always half. I see a lot of people always say that it's just half. I always kind of want to sort of counter that point. It depends on the fight and the promotion. There's certain deals they have with certain distributors, because you might be working with several distributors to get your pay-per-view out to every platform, let's call it, right? Like, you need a distributor to get to DirecTV, to Dish, to PlayStation Network, right? You're trying, like, you have to work through maybe several distributors to get your content out there to all of the platforms. So that happens. And that's why also, for example, it might take a while to get full pay-per-view numbers back, because you have to get them from the network to the distributor to the promoter. And that might all take time. So especially if you're working with, it's not just one network and one distributor and one promoter. It might be several. It might be a couple promoters. It might be several promoters on a card. There might be several networks involved. There might be dozens of platforms involved that you're distributing it to. That all takes time to collect that data. That's why it takes a week or so. A little pay-per-view understanding. Thanks for the question as well, Combat Sports Highlight. I thought that was a good question. Most people, again, aren't really explaining that quite well. And I hope I explained it well to you. What we're talking about, Crawford to Ortiz, or fighting Ortiz. I will say this. I think it's a smart move by Oscar to sort of wrap up the topic. I think it's a smart move by Oscar. I think this is sort of like the only thing you have right now is Ortiz. I think Ryan Garcia is a ticking clock till he goes. And maybe Ortiz as well, because we know his trainer isn't the most fondest of Oscar recently. So,
and he's already signed with MTK Global for management, right? So you can see, like, he's not really trusting De La Hoya's blueprint, right? Like, yeah.
He wants somebody else on his side instead of just Oscar telling him, or Eric Gomez telling him what to do. And that's a red flag, obviously. So, hey, you got to maximize what you got right now, because you don't have a lot right now. I get it. I still doubt Terrence Crawford aligned himself with DAZN. I think that would be counterproductive to trying to get Errol Spence fight or any of the fights that matter in his career. At the very least, he's just going to be a network free agent and be a mercenary like we've talked about. At most, he's going to sign some sort of long-term or mid-term deal with PBC and Al Heyman. Like, that's kind of what's going to happen with Al Heyman. And that just makes the most sense. Like, regardless of money, you're going to make the most money doing that. Like, that's just the reality. Because look what happened with DAZN and Canelo. They're going to ask you to restructure the deal whenever they want, right? Like that's the thing now. If with DAZN big contracts, you can't make them anymore, because all these big time fighters are going to think you're just going to at any point say, hey, we're only going to pay you half. You did that to Canelo Alvarez. What's going to stop you doing that to me? Right? Like, if I'm Terrence Crawford, you just did that to Canelo Alvarez. I'm only Terrence Crawford. What makes, like, I don't feel safe with you right now, right? Like, you feel like a predatory network. So I just see the era of big time DAZN deals being gone. It's just that day it happened. It was an era that happened like a year and a half, and it's just over with. What else? That's about it for that topic for me. Gary, any other thoughts?
No. You want to talk about this Ryan Garcia fighting at an Aztec pyramid thing?
I kind of want to talk about this might being pushed back a lot, to be honest. I know it was pushed back, I think, from this December 19th date to the January 2nd date now, predominantly for Canelo Alvarez, right? So that Ryan didn't have to fight on the same date as, his mentor and his training partner and stuff. But this fight has been pushed back a lot. Let's be honest. It's been pushed back.
Originally supposed to be July 4th weekend.
Yeah.
And then it went, that happened.
And now we're getting Oscar talking about like it could be like on a beach or near a pyramid. It's just, is this fight even in like reliable hands to where it happens?
I wanted to say that. No. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I'm not confident that it does.
Yeah, it's so concerning because this is a really good fight. Like this has a lot of meaning, not only for the division, because if Ryan Garcia wins, he's in a position to really capitalize on his already built stardom that these other prospects, the other guys that we talk about as the next generation, just aren't ready for. Like maybe Tank is, but like Ryan Garcia, I think, is in a better position than all of them. And if he beats Luke Campbell, it legitimizes him for the boxing community, which would then allow him to be more legitimized in the greater pop cultural world, to be honest, right? I think the only thing holding him back from true like superstardom, honestly, is that he is not legit yet in this world, to be honest. Like he's not legit in the boxing world yet. Like we think he's good. We think he's a good prospect. We he's not, we don't think he's a bum, right? But we don't know if he's cut out to be a champion yet or a multi-divisional champion. Like those are all things yet to be determined. If he goes out here and blows out Luke Campbell in 6 rounds, the hype for him becomes legitimized in ways that it's not before. I'm just very concerned that we're not going to get this fight that matters potentially, again, not just for this division or for Ryan Garcia, but maybe for the sport, because maybe Ryan Garcia is that guy that is a flag bearer for the sport for the next 10 years. That's not unrealistic to think.
No, it's not. But he's got to prove he's the good. Now he doesn't have to win every fight. Oscar lost most of his big fights, but they got to be good fights, and he's got to make the fights, right?
Yeah.
He's got to win some of them.
Yes, win some.
Right, but he doesn't have to win all of them. He definitely doesn't have to win all of them. He just has to be in there. He has to be competitive, and if he can promote himself and sell himself and keep himself out of trouble, which he has, right? I mean, he has no history. You don't see him. He says, "I don't beat women like you." It's Tank Davis, right? Like so. Yeah, he could be the next guy, but we have to see that he can fight at that highest level. Again, I told you I picked Luke Campbell to win, although I could see Ryan Garcia winning. If Luke Campbell stays on his feet for all 12 rounds, I think he wins enough rounds. But that's a big if. Ryan Garcia is certainly the better athlete. He certainly has more power. He's more explosive. So he certainly has a path to victory. And he could be on a collision course at some point with Devin Haney's and Tank Davis and Teofimo Lopez. Or he is, and then like he could be, like Matt said, the flag bearer. Like he could be the next guy that carries the sport. That's not ridiculous to think.
And if it could be a quick thing too, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Like if he beats Luke Campbell, I'll be honest. I think that we see Bob Arum bend over backwards to make the Teofimo Lopez fight.
Good.
Because in his mind, he'll think, "Oh, that's a direct way to make Teofimo Lopez a star. You beat Ryan Garcia, beat the pretty boy, beat him up, get all of his fans."
The interesting thing is how would Top Rank and DAZN work together in a fight of that magnitude? You can see how Top Rank can work with ESPN. I mean, Top Rank can work with Fox or Showtime, right? How would they work with a streaming service? How would that work? Now, that would be like the question I have.
Especially where we're going to talk about it later with Teofimo Lopez, because I do have a Teofimo Lopez topic, a couple of topics to talk about. Dude, he thinks he is like the next god, right? Like, there's no way he goes to the zone and plays B-side to Ryan Garcia. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Oh, he just got guaranteed $5 million per fight. Over 2 main events after headlining 2 fights. like, all right, look, good for him. I'm not knocking the guy. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that seems a little premature.
A little? No, man. The guy has like 60,000 followers on Twitter. Yeah, man, he's a superstar. God damn it! It's so sad because like he could have been. You could have risen his stardom and like overall presence so much before that Loma fight, and they just didn't. They just didn't care. They were in a contract dispute, so they didn't want to build him up. Right? That's what it was. Like, we don't talk about it. That's the reason why Top Rank like self-sabotaged that fight, because both guys had contract disputes with them. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Fucking Bob Arum. Anyways, we're gonna get to Teofimo Lopez in a bit. He has to wait. Mr. A's side. Let's talk about Usyk though. Guy that got touched up by Chaz Witherspoon, almost lost to Derek Chisora. He wants to cash out with AJ, right? That's why he's pushing for the WBO mandatory slot so much.
No, because I think he wants to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I think that's it.
No, it's because he knows. Because he knows he's going to lose, and he just wants to make money before he loses to Dylan White or Povetkin.
Usyk's going to lose to AJ.
Yes. Gary, Usyk barely survived with Chisora.
I don't know about he barely. You said life and death. Like I think you're being a little hyperbolic there.
Am I?
A little bit.
Dude, that was his toughest fight in his career.
I mean, it was as tough as it wasn't the closest. The Brinas fight was closer. Now, it was his toughest fight because Usyk did land, and I mean, Chisora did land shots. He did. He made. It wasn't an easy fight. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm saying life and death. That wasn't really life and death. Like he was in control.
No, man, it was such life and death that he actually died and had to be risen again.
Yeah, they had to resuscitate him.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think AJ beats up Usyk.
Nah.
You still pick Usyk to win?
I will pick him. Look, I know he's not going to run through the division now because, again, the name the heavyweight champion that unanimous decisions, everyone. It doesn't happen. Eventually, he'll get clipped by someone. But just head to head, I pick him to beat everyone.
Even Tyson Fury?
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
Gary. I love when I ask you a question that's clearly like a gotcha question, right? Like, because I'm an asshole. And you pause, you go, damn it.
Again, you guys know I think Fury's really good. Although Fury does get lazy, he does get sloppy. He has performances like against what was the big German dude's name? Not Schwartz. Lean.
Yes.
Where it's like, boy, this guy's awful.
Was he German or Swedish? Or Finnish?
Lean has to be German, right? Otto Lean.
What do you mean it has to be?
I mean, I don't think you have too many. What Swedish? That could be Swedish. Otto Lean.
They don't have the same name. Right? Like, come on, man. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm thinking the Scandinavian people and the Germanic people, kind of almost the same.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
It's okay. It's like Welsh and English people. It's yeah, you guys have a little bit of a different accent, but you're right next to each other.
And only Rob knows the difference. But yeah.
Oh man. Do you think he gets the shot with AJ? Or should I bring this up again? Because it does seem like Tyson Fury is just not getting a fight right now. Like the Cabial fight fell through. The Takum fight fell through because apparently that was in negotiation as well. So what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think we could just get AJ versus Fury? I mean, just get that fast tracked? Or are these things unrelated stories and I'm connecting dots that aren't there?
I don't. I was gonna say this depends on Tyson Fury. If Tyson does Usyk get a shot? If anyone besides Tyson Fury gets a shot after Pulev, I think it's Usyk, right? But that all depends on Tyson Fury, right? Because they're going to make that Tyson Fury fight first. That's going to take precedence over everything. But I don't know where Tyson Fury stands, right? This fight gets called off. That fight gets called off. Deontay Wilder said, no, I'm fighting him. So I don't know, like, Deontay Wilder's legal ground to – I know the rematch clause has expired. Can he still execute it because of pandemics? I don't know. I think that – does Usyk get a shot? I think he's the next guy up after Pulev.
Mm-hmm.
But that all depends on Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Moving on. Teofimo Lopez, like we were talking about earlier, is eyeing $5 million to return to fight at MSG in New York in the springtime. Not even Australia against Kambosos. He's playing big dog and he wants back at MSG in New York. And on top of it, he thinks he's the A side against Tank Davis, who just did a pretty decent pay-per-view number. What did it do? Above 200,000? What was it?
I don't remember. I was going to ask you. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was like
it was definitely over 2 for sure.
Like 220 something, wasn't it?
Who can fact check us?
I can look it up while we're talking. But Teofimo Lopez, I mean, he's definitely is it getting to him? Is the wind going to his head here, Gary? What do you perceive of Teofimo Lopez thinking he's the god of the division now? And how would that affect negotiations with, Haney, Tank Davis? We know Bob Arum is out there saying that Haney needs to prove himself now. So thoughts on the likelihood of the new Teofimo Lopez, the position Top Rank is in, and that affecting big fights happening?
I think this fight, Tank Davis and Teofimo Lopez, could get made. I really do. I think there's enough money in this fight. If both people, and this is the caveat, if both parties are reasonable, I think there's enough money in this fight that ESPN and PBC and whoever can work together and make this fight happen. I really do. Now, what's reasonable? Like, you guys are going to have to split this 50-50. Right? It's a 50-50 fight. So I don't care who you want to call the A side. It doesn't matter. Right? But like if someone is saying, oh, I need a 60-40 split or I need guaranteed $10 million, those aren't reasonable requests. Okay? If all parties are reasonable, I think this fight can get made. I don't know that either of these guys are going to be reasonable, especially Teofimo Lopez, who apparently now thinks he's the biggest star. He thinks he's the LeBron James, the Tom Brady of boxing. Like, he's bigger than the sport itself. I mean, someone may need to explain to him that, like, you did a great rating. You're the undisputed lightweight champ with an asterisk. These are good things. You're not as big a star as you think. Like, someone needs to explain that to him. Like, you can't make these ridiculous demands because they're not going to get met. Not even close. Now, I am an advocate of when you negotiate from aggressively, right? Come in with a demand is not going to get met, but make them come up. I don't know how much of this is bluster with him and how big of a star he actually thinks he is. He got 60,000 Twitter followers, right? Or Instagram followers? Which one? Twitter. He's got 60,000 Twitter followers.
Quickly, someone in the chat, it was not 160,000 buys. It, according to Mike Coppinger, did 200,000 to 225,000 pay-per-view buys for Gervonta Davis-Lee or Santa Cruz. Liam Roskell is asking, is 200,000 buys decent now for a lightweight in your first pay-per-view main event? Yes. First off, look at the long track record of pay-per-views and see how many of them are in the lightweight division.
No, that's good.
That in and of itself shows you, like, the rarefied air that this is in. First off, also the fact that it's pay-per-view debut for both fighters in the main event, that's also should be factored into it. So yeah, 200,000, 225,000 pay-per-view buys. Yeah, that's kind of decent. Floyd Mayweather at 147 pounds, so the glamour division, right? And his first pay-per-view. So he already was a multi-divisional champion at that point, right? Fight Arturo Gotti after his
140. Yeah.
Sorry, it was 140. My bad. 140. But he was already a multi-division champion. won belts at 130, 135. Mayweather and also 140. Mayweather did 350,000 pay-per-view buys for that event.
And he had the B side, which was really half A side, and Gaddy selling pay-per-views for that too, right? Like Gaddy sold a lot of pay-per-views for that fight. I mean, the names together because people love Gaddy, but Gaddy was a huge draw at that time.
Like, who's a bigger draw, Gaddy and Mayweather, or Gervonta Davis and Santa Cruz? You know, obviously
Mayweather,
the former is, right, and it was in a higher division, which has a higher potential to sell pay-per-views. Both guys already had a long career already. I mean, you can already argue that Mayweather was pound for pound number one at that point, and maybe had a Hall of Fame career. You can maybe argue that.
He was number one pound. That was like 2006, 2005. Yeah, he was number one pound for pound at that time.
Exactly. So like and they only did 350,000 pay-per-views. So like, yeah, this is decent. It's a lightweight. It's a lower division. Historically, not a pay-per-view division. Both guys are debuting on pay-per-view. Both guys don't have the biggest, longest, most storied careers. Yeah, I think it's decent. I didn't say it was great. I didn't say it was even good. I just said it's decent. Gary, I mean, you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I would say it's good. I mean, I think it's a good number. I mean, it's not anything to, bless on over. I wouldn't take out a full page ad advertising it, but like it's a good number. I would say it's good.
Absolutely. I love this. 3 million people watched Teofimo versus Loma. 200,000 people watched Devonta. Dude.
First of all, that's not true. 200,000 people purchased it, right? How many people have Netflix? How many people watch Netflix? Two different things, right? What's the girl's name that's on MSNBC during the power lunch? Kelly, whatever her name is, right? Okay. She was saying, like, they're talking about Amazon stock, and she was saying, well, you can only log on from two accounts. You can only log on from two locations at one time. So I don't have it. My sister-in-law has it. So I have to call my mother-in-law and see if she's using it. And if she's not using it, then I get to log on. It's like, guys, stop, Kelly. Just don't say that on air, right? Because now you're going to get a letter in the mail saying not to do that, right?
And first, that's not true. I don't know what's happening with her account because you can definitely log on with more than
two locations at one time.
Yes.
All right, that's what she said.
Wait, log on just to Amazon?
To Amazon, yeah.
Or Amazon Prime Video?
Because
I think both, it doesn't matter. Like I'm logged in Amazon Prime at least on like 3 or 4 different devices in this house alone, let alone in my mom's house, let alone my sister's house.
All at the same time? It doesn't kick you out?
No.
Okay. No. I don't know. That's what you were saying. I don't know. I mean,
fucking liberals, man.
I don't know if she's a liberal. I don't know her.
She's on MSNBC. She's a liberal, right?
MSNBC. Did I say MSNBC?
You did, yeah.
I'm sorry, CNBC.
Gary, I definitely don't want CNBC.
I'm sorry. Did I say MSNBC? CNBC. I mean, I don't know her political persuasion. Yeah, CNBC.
I don't know what her political.
That's what I'm saying. The power lunch, and the midday report. Like,
what that is, Gary. I'm not a boomer.
I'm not a boomer either, but I guess for the sake of this conversation, I'll play the boomer. I'm sorry, CNBC. But she was. Is that not true? You can sign on to it from like unlimited locations.
Yeah, you should be. That's why I don't know what she's talking about.
All right.
And even if like the locations is just like IP address, which means like
Kelly Evans is her name. I couldn't think of her name. Kelly Evans.
I do not know who that is. But even if like it's just the IP address, so like all these 4 or 5 devices that are logged into Amazon Prime or Amazon right now, right? It's all on the same IP address, so that's one location. But even if that's the case, again, my house, my mom's house, my sister's house, all the same account. Same with Netflix, same with Hulu, same with all that shit. YouTube TV. It's all the same.
Oh, then she was wrong about that too. And then she's going to get a letter saying that she has to stop doing that because she's breaking the law.
The only times I really get logged out, to be honest, is BoxRec, and ESPN Plus. I'll be honest, I always get logged out of ESPN Plus, but that's easy. I just do the sign in, and I'm already.
ESPN Plus sucks.
Oh my god, it's the worst. You would think something like Disney Plus is like a really nice app, right? that ESPN Plus would be like halfway decent.
Like the same thing, but smaller, right? Like this should be easier. It should actually be better because there's less stuff on it.
Oh my god. Yeah, you're completely right. It's so sad.
Disney Plus is what, $8 a month now? Well worth it, guys. It's really good.
Oh, I love Disney Plus.
Yeah.
There's so much content. If you have kids, like if you don't have kids, I don't think you should get Disney Plus unless you're just like a huge Star Wars or like Marvel fan. But yeah, for kids, it's a must. Like especially since like Netflix for kids nowadays sucks. There's nothing on there except for Pokemon. And like I don't want to watch Pokemon anymore with my kid. Like that is wow, it's a lot. It's a
You
lot
can
of Pokemon.
binge watch The Simpsons every episode from all 31 years with your 6-year-old daughter on Disney Plus. Yeah, it's like never-ending episodes of The Simpsons. Like there's so many. We made it through 20-something seasons, 22, 23 seasons. Like, okay, I need a break now.
If you want to, since it's the holidays, right? It's Christmas time. Go to the search, right? For some reason, they don't really have this in front, but it should be in the front. Go to search, hit search, right? And then you're going to see like all the different collections they have.
Yeah.
There's the holiday collection, the Christmas collection. And it has all the Simpsons Christmas episodes, like selected for you. So if you just want to watch the Christmas episodes of The Simpsons, you can do
that with the Halloween episodes too.
Yep.
I never really liked their Halloween episodes. Like I thought, like the first couple were good, and then they got stupid.
I love the Halloween episodes.
Like maybe the first 5 were good, even, and then like 6 House of Horrors 6 through 50 were like, all right.
Yeah, but that's like season 8 at that point. Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, let's get through.
And just quick question for the chat. Just put down a one-word answer without overthinking it, and there's no qualifying questions. Just put down the first answer that comes to your mind. What color is gravy? What color is gravy?
Oh my god.
That's it.
This is so stupid. So stupid. And I'm not going to add anything to this story, guys, because then like it gives it away and people were like start Googling this shit. No. Gary is crazy. Anyone like him is crazy, and they should be like hospitalized.
I like how Rob goes, so not gravy. I'm like, does gravy have like a consensus definition? Like you're allowed to call it gravy? Like all dictionaries and cookbooks all define gravy as having some absolute standard? Like
no. There's an absolute standard on what you can put gravy on. Okay. And then there is like a standard for like what the spectrum of gravies are. Like you get like the really like runny like brown gravy. You get like the white like with the sausage and black pepper. Yeah, you get like that spectrum of gravy, but still like that gravy. And it's only used for like country fried steak, mashed potatoes, turkey, like comfort food. Like that's all it can be used for. Okay, not for what you use it for, Gary. And also, we don't call something that is not that you know I'm talking about gravy. We never call that gravy. Like the one that starts with an M, we don't call that gravy.
Okay. I mean, I get that, right?
Like, Italian even.
Like and that's what the article Foo sent was actually a gravy versus sauce argument was actually interesting, like because there's no Italian word that translates, so they had to we'll just call it gravy, right? Which is kind of what I thought. Like if you go to like certain neighborhoods, like you said in South Philadelphia, where there's lots of Italians, especially from Southern Italy, that's gravy. That's just what we call it. That's gravy, right? Like I get being from Texas, where there's not a lot of Italians, people look at you like you're weird if you call it gravy. But like growing up, it was called either one interchangeably by my mom. Like because there's no word in Italian for either one of for sauce or gravy. Like they don't have that word, so you have to call it something. You know what I'm saying? So they call it gravy.
Again, you Italian heathen.
But then, like I said, gravy is, like pork gravy, like with sauces in it, like you put on biscuits or country fried steak. And Rob said that's not gravy either. That's gravy.
No, that's gravy.
Yeah,
that's gravy. No, that's 100% gravy.
That's good.
And it's honestly the best gravy. Like I prefer that over like the brown runny shit. To be
the brown runny stuff. That's bottom. That's bottom tier.
Oh, it's the worst. It really is the worst too. Because like all the stuff you use like that for, which is like mashed potatoes, like turkey, like certain like meats and stuff like that.
No, you still use the pork stuff for that.
You can still use that, and it's better. The black
Yeah.
pepper alone in it is just better for some reason. It just pops out more. And again, country fried steaks. For any of our like international audience that have never had a country fried steak, try it if you can. Like I would like DoorDash, look that shit up if you can find one.
Oh, it's chicken fried steak, which is what we call it. Yeah.
Same thing. It's interchangeable.
Same thing.
Like you get restaurants that call it chicken fried steak or one that's called country fried steak.
Gravy, same thing. Sunday sauce, gravy.
It's not the same thing. It's not because even though the name changed, it's still the same, right? When I say gravy or sauce, those are two very different things. Like marinara sauce is never gravy. Just like
kind of.
I would never call gravy sauce. Like pass me that sauce for this country fried steak. I would never do that. Pass me the gravy.
No, that's weird. But if there's a bowl of red stuff you want on your pasta or your braciole, I want that on my food.
That's sauce
or gravy. Either one is fine.
It's only sauce. As the non-Italian here, yes, that is only sauce. Okay. Also, let's get out of here, Gary. Let's get through the news. Demian Andrade fighting Liam Williams. We talked about that earlier. Probable for February in Providence, says Eddie Hearn. Joseph Diaz versus Shavkat Rakhimov. Sure, if I mispronounced that, I apologize. They've reached terms and avoided a purse bid for an IBF title fight. Actually, really intrigued by this fight, to be honest. Rakhimov has been a prospect for a while now, and Joseph Diaz, I think, has really improved over the last couple of years, to be honest. And I still think he gave Gary Russell his toughest fight, except for obviously Lomachenko. So I think Joseph Diaz is criminally underrated. Gary, that's it for the news and for the topics of the day. Any last thoughts before we head out here, man?
No. It's big fight week.
We'll be back on Wednesday to preview the fights.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we didn't get to that. Yeah, we had a lot to get to. A lot of news, and then
I was hoping if we got through like all the shit really fast, we can do that too, but we didn't. So we'll push that back for Wednesday and make its own show.
Yeah, it deserves it. It warrants its own show. This is a big fight, guys. It's a big fight. It's a good fight. And I bet you Danny Garcia's hood, they would definitely call it. If I said to him gravy, he would know that it could be the red stuff.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, Danny Garcia, the metric for fine cuisine.
Well, they said Philadelphia is one of the areas where it's predominantly called gravy, and they call it a hoagie there too, which is I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I don't like that.
Scott Brown saying he's going to look up a country fried steak recipe. It's just steak fried like fried chicken.
Yeah,
think about it that way. It's
like
super easy.
I know what Matt calls right because a lot of places call it country fried steak, but where I live, they call it chicken fried steak.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
And where I'm from, it's interchangeable. Again, it depends on the restaurant. It's the same thing. Like when you hear either one, it's the same, regardless. Yeah, and you have to get biscuits with it too. Like that's a mandatory thing. And for those in the UK, biscuits does not mean cookies. Biscuits are like scones for you guys in the UK.
But scones are sweetened here.
Yeah, scones are more like a pastry, sweetened pastry here, but that's beside the point. For you guys in the UK, scones are biscuits here in the US.
Did you ever see the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Larry David orders the scones? Like, this is a little soft. Scones are a little firmer. He's like, this is more like a muffin. And he's like, do you want the scone? It's like, I'll take the muffin. I'll eat the muffin.
Yogi DeBear saying mashed potatoes. Yes, you need mashed potatoes with it too. Also, because I'm always a fan of this pairing, steak and green beans. So green beans as well.
Green beans is fine. I was going to say corn on the cob, but either one.
No, corn on the cob. Yes, as well. Man, I love comfort food. I might have some tonight. That shit's so delicious. Guys, follow me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. We will be back on Wednesday talking, obviously, Spence, Danny Garcia, and there's other fights this weekend that I forgot about off the top of my head. Apologies. And General Strike podcast should be back this week sometime, whenever I feel like it, and whenever I have time to do it to be more apt or more accurate, I should say. And what else? Shout out to Rob, whose studio is out of commission right now due to his kids taking over for storage. That's hilarious. And what else? Foogatti for being MIA all the time. We love you, Foogatti. We're going to put his face on milk cartons. That's the next step, probably. I wonder if like people really get that reference. That's like an old school reference, huh? Like,
yeah, it is old. I mean, you're not old enough. I'm barely old enough to remember that. So you definitely don't remember that, right?
I only know it by reference, like by it being taught to me. Like that's what it was.
People on the back of a milk carton. Yeah, but you never saw a milk carton with a person on it, right?
No, like in the wild, no.
Yeah,
no, never. There's definitely like kids that watch the show. Kids mean like 16-year-olds that watch the show that have no idea what we're talking about.
You know when you get something in the mail, like "Have you seen me?" Like, and the person is missing.
A better way to describe it is, like the Amber Alerts.
Yeah.
Like missing alert, like, hey, this elderly person. You would actually get those printed on milk cartons back in the day. God, I feel old. I'm 25. What the fuck? Anyways, Gary, final thoughts. Let people know to find you.
Find me all forms social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing blog, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
Have a good day. Peace. Oh, and remember, guys, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.